Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive?
Always.
Today we're tackling AI, but not the fun kind.
Oh,
Not the cool gadgets and robots. We're talking ethics.
the big question.
Exactly, the big questions. AI surveillance, job automation, even AI in warfare.
Those are definitely hot
Uh,
topics these days.
We've got a ton of articles and expert opinions to dig through.
Should be fast.
Absolutely, so buckle up because we're going to unpack some serious dilemmas.
The stuff that keeps you up at night.
You could say that. What's wild is how much AI is already in our lives.
It really is intertwined with everything.
And it's only going to get more intense.
Yeah.
So we need to understand the potential downsides.
Definitely the risks as well as the rewards.
Okay, so let's jump right in with something that feels like straight-up science fiction.
Oh, I like where this is going.
AI-powered surveillance. Imagine cameras everywhere, analyzing faces,
Tracking your every move.
and even predicting what you'll do next.
It's a bit Big Brother-ish, isn't it?
Right. And in some cities, this isn't the future, it's already happening.
It's wild to think about.
Is it the ultimate security solution?
Or a total invasion of privacy?
That's the debate. On the one hand, imagine stopping crimes before they happen.
Catching criminals instantly.
AI can make us all safer.
That's the argument you hear a lot from proponents of these systems.
That it can analyze tons of data and spot things humans might miss.
Potentially preventing some really bad stuff.
But then you have to ask, at what cost?
Exactly.
Are we giving up our freedom to feel safe?
What happens to anonymity if we're constantly being watched?
And what if this technology gets used for the wrong reasons?
That's a huge concern.
Like who controls the controllers?
And the potential for bias in the algorithms is scary.
Imagine being targeted just because of your race or how you look.
That's what critics are really worried about.
It's a tough one. Valid arguments on both sides.
It's definitely complex.
So can we even find a balance? Can we have security without sacrificing privacy?
It's the million-dollar question. And the good news is it's not a simple yes or no answer.
That's good to hear.
There are actually a bunch of solutions being looked at right now.
Oh, like what?
Well, one thing is differential privacy.
Differential privacy.
It's a way of adding noise to data to protect people's identities.
So you can still analyze the data, but you don't know who it belongs to.
Exactly. And another promising idea is federated learning,
Okay, I've heard of that.
where AI models are trained on data that's spread out, not all in one place.
So you don't need to collect all that sensitive personal info.
Right, so it protects privacy while still allowing for powerful AI.
It sounds like there's some really bright people working on this.
Definitely. A lot of thought going into it.
But where do we fit in? What can regular people do to shape the future of AI surveillance?
That's a great question. I think the biggest thing is staying informed.
Knowledge is power, right?
Exactly. Understand the risks and the potential. Talk about it, debate it.
Decide where we as a society want to draw the line.
Because this isn't just happening in some lab somewhere. It's impacting all of us.
It feels like we're writing the next chapter of this story.
We are every day.
Okay, so that's AI surveillance, just a taste of the issues there. But let's shift gears to something a little closer to home.
Sure.
AI and jobs. Because let's be honest, we've all heard those warnings about robots taking over.
Yeah, the robot apocalypse.
And now it feels like it's not so far-fetched.
AI is definitely changing the job market. Companies are automating like crazy.
Right, to save money and be more efficient.
And it's happening in all kinds of industries.
So is this the beginning of the end of work as we know it?
Well, it's not that simple. There are two sides to this coin.
Okay, play devil's advocate for a second.
All right, put on my devil horns.
Couldn't AI free us from boring, repetitive jobs?
You mean like data entry and those soul-crushing customer service calls?
Exactly. Let the robots handle the drudgery.
And free up humans for more creative and fulfilling work.
That's the argument, right?
That's what a lot of people believe, that AI could actually improve job satisfaction.
And maybe even boost productivity overall.
Because people are doing what they're actually good at.
But what about the people whose jobs are those repetitive tasks?
That's the flip side, the big concern.
Are they just supposed to become AI programmers overnight?
It's not realistic.
It feels like a lot of people could get left behind.
That's what critics worry about. Mass unemployment.
And even bigger gaps between the rich and poor.
If we don't manage this transition carefully.
So how do we walk this tightrope? How do we get the benefits of AI without destroying livelihoods?
It's a tough one, but there are some ideas out there.
Like what?
Well, a lot of people are focusing on education and retraining.
So giving people the skills they need for the new AI economy.
Exactly. Things like data analysis, problem solving, critical thinking.
Skills that robots can't do yet.
Exactly. But is retraining enough?
That's the question.
What about people who lose their jobs in the meantime?
Right. They need support while they're learning new skills
So some people are suggesting things like wage insurance
to help bridge the income gap,
or even a universal basic income.
a safety net for everyone.
These are all complex issues, and there's no easy answer.
But it's clear we can't just ignore the potential consequences.
Absolutely not. We have to think about the human cost of progress.
So we've got surveillance and jobs, two pretty big ethical dilemmas.
Yeah, and we're about to dive into one that's even more intense.
Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're going to talk about AI in warfare.
The stuff of nightmares.
Autonomous weapons, killer robots, machines making life or death decisions.
It sounds like a movie.
But it's not. This technology is being developed right now.
And it raises a whole host of moral and ethical questions.
Questions we can't afford to ignore.
Not if we want to keep some semblance of control over our future.
Okay, so let's break this down. On one hand, you could argue that AI could make war less deadly.
Less collateral damage. Fewer civilian casualties.
Drones with pinpoint accuracy, taking out specific targets.
And if we remove human soldiers from the battlefield,
Countless lives saved.
it's a powerful argument.
And one that proponents of autonomous weapons often make.
They talk about making warfare more humane.
Which sounds kind of crazy, but
The idea is that AI could make more rational decisions,
no emotions, no fear, no anger clouding their judgment.
so potentially fewer mistakes.
But on the other hand, can we really give machines the power to kill?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Who's accountable when an AI makes a mistake?
And what happens if this tech falls into the wrong hands? These are the nightmares that critics are highlighting.
The lack of human oversight. The potential for unintended consequences.
And the possibility of a global AI arms race.
So we have these two very different perspectives.
Two sides of the same coin.
AI as a solution to war.
And AI as a catalyst for something even worse.
So where do we go from here? How do we even begin to reconcile these opposing views?
That's the challenge. And the conversation is already happening.
Oh, really?
Governments, researchers, even the United Nations are debating this.
Wow. So what are they saying?
Some are pushing for a ban on autonomous weapons.
A preemptive strike before things get out of control.
Others are calling for strict regulations and international agreements.
To control how these weapons are developed and used, it feels like we're at a crossroads.
A pivotal moment in history.
The decisions we make now will have huge consequences for the future.
Absolutely.
But even if we could create perfectly ethical autonomous weapons,
Machines that never made mistakes.
only targeted legitimate military objectives,
Would that really make war any less horrific?
wouldn't it just make it easier to wage war?
Lower the threshold for conflict?
More wars, more often.
It's a deep question, and it goes beyond the tech itself.
It's about what it means to be human.
Exactly.
War is a human endeavor,
Yeah.
with all its complexities and moral ambiguities.
And we have to ask ourselves, can we delegate the decision to kill to machines?
And should we?
Heavy stuff.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about. Okay, I think that's a good place to pause for now. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have a lot of ethical dilemmas.
From AI surveillance to the future of work to the very nature of warfare.
It's been thought-provoking.
And I hope it's got everyone listening starting to think critically about AI and its role in our lives.
Because the future is not set in stone.
It's up to all of us to shape it.
Absolutely. It's kind of crazy how these totally different areas, like surveillance and jobs and even war, all come back to the same question.
What's that?
How do we make sure AI works for us, not the other way around?
Right, like how do we stay in control?
Exactly. And you mentioned international agreements for AI in warfare earlier.
Yeah, but honestly, does that even stand a chance?
Yeah.
Getting everyone to agree on something so complex.
It's definitely a challenge.
Feel like a long shot.
But we've seen international cooperation before, even on tough issues.
Like what?
Like nuclear weapons, that was and still is a huge deal.
True, but those are tangible. Nukes. You can see them. AI feels different.
It's more insidious, right? But the principles are the same. Start talking, get different people involved, understand the stakes.
So find common ground, basically.
Yeah, recognize that nobody wins if AI goes off the rails.
Okay, but even if we agree on what not to do, how do you enforce that?
That's the tricky part. Who gets to decide what's ethical?
Exactly. It's not like there's a rule book for this stuff.
Not yet, anyway. One idea gaining traction is creating some kind of international body,
Like a global AI watchdog.
something like that, to monitor development, set standards, handle disputes.
Like those organizations for trade or nuclear stuff.
Exactly. A framework for accountability.
Okay, but what about countries going rogue? Even with agreements, someone's going to be tempted to cheat.
It's a risk, for sure. But agreements aren't just about punishment.
What do you mean?
They're about diplomacy, setting expectations. If a country breaks the rules, they face consequences.
Like what?
Reputational damage, sanctions, maybe even intervention from others.
So, pressure from the global community.
Exactly. Makes it a lot riskier to go rogue.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's zoom in a bit. Let's say we manage the international stuff. How do we make sure AI is developed ethically within countries?
That's where things get even more complicated.
It's not just governments and big tech, right? It's the people actually building this stuff.
You got it.
Yeah.
Individual researchers, developers, they have a huge role to play.
So how do we make sure they're thinking ethically?
It has to be part of their training from day one.
Like ethics courses for AI programmers.
Exactly. Build it into the education system, research labs, everywhere.
So it's not just about the code they write, it's about their mindset.
Exactly. Instilling a sense of responsibility for what they're creating.
But how do you translate that into real-world actions? Like, what does ethical AI development actually look like on the ground?
There are some really cool things happening. More universities are offering ethics courses specifically for AI.
So, like, AI 101, don't build Skynet.
Something like that. And professional groups for AI developers are creating codes of conduct.
Guidelines for responsible innovation.
Exactly. Even within the tech industry, there's a growing movement to build ethics into the design process.
So people are starting to wake up to the potential dangers.
Definitely. But AI is evolving so fast, it's hard to keep up.
It feels like every day there's a new breakthrough and a new ethical dilemma.
It's a constant race. That's why we need adaptable frameworks for ethical governance.
So not just hard and fast rules, but something more flexible.
Right. Something that can evolve along with the technology.
That makes sense. But it also requires constant dialogue and collaboration.
Oh, absolutely. We have to keep talking, keep learning, keep adjusting. And that's not just the experts.
Wait, you're going to say it's on all of us again, aren't you?
You know it. We can't just leave this to the policymakers and tech giants.
So what can we do? Seriously, what can regular people do to make sure AI is developed ethically?
First and foremost, educate yourself. The more you know about AI, the better.
Okay, read articles, listen to podcasts like this one.
Exactly. Understand the potential, the risks, the whole picture. Then you can join the conversation.
And make informed choices about the tech we use.
Exactly. You can also support organizations promoting responsible AI.
Like donating or volunteering.
Exactly. Or just spreading the word about their work.
Okay, so education, supporting good organizations, and I'm guessing voting for the right people matters too.
You bet. Hold our elected officials accountable. Make sure they're prioritizing ethical AI.
Support candidates who get it.
Exactly. And beyond all that, just be mindful of how you interact with AI every day.
What do you mean?
The choices you make matter. Support companies doing AI responsibly. Be a critical consumer of information. Demand transparency about how your data is used.
So basically, be aware of the AI that's already in our lives.
And use your voice, your choices, to push for ethical development. Every little bit helps.
Okay, so we've got a lot to do.
We do, but it's not hopeless. The future of AI is still being written.
And we all have a role to play in shaping it.
Exactly. That's the key message here. We have more power than we think.
All right, so we spent a lot of time talking about the dark side of AI. But what about the solutions? What's being done to address these ethical challenges?
Well, one of the most encouraging things I'm seeing is this movement towards responsible AI.
Responsible AI, huh?
Yeah, it's about bringing everyone to the table. Researchers, developers, policymakers, ethicists,
Even everyday people?
even everyday people. It's
Wow.
about thinking critically about how to develop and use AI ethically.
So baking ethics into the very DNA of AI.
Exactly. Not just fixing problems after they happen.
And is this actually happening? Or is it just a bunch of talk?
No, it's happening. There's a real shift in the research world, for example.
Oh, yeah.
People are focusing on algorithms that aren't just accurate and efficient.
They also need to be fair.
Fair, transparent, accountable AI systems that can explain their decisions.
So no more black boxes.
Ideally, no. We need to know why AI is making certain choices.
That makes sense. But what about the real world? We talked about some pretty scary stuff: surveillance, autonomous weapons, job losses. Are there any examples of AI being used for good?
Absolutely. Healthcare is a great example.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about AI diagnosing diseases.
It's pretty incredible. AI can analyze medical images with amazing accuracy.
Catching things early when treatment is more effective.
Exactly. And it's not just diagnosis. There's AI-assisted surgery.
Robots doing surgery.
Well, assisting surgeons. They can perform complex procedures with incredible precision.
Wow, so it's not about replacing doctors altogether.
Not at all. It's about augmenting their skills, making them even better.
That's reassuring. But even with good intentions, things can go wrong. What about the potential for misuse?
That's why regulation and oversight are crucial.
Well,
We need clear rules for how AI can be used.
and who's responsible when things go sideways?
Exactly. Governments, policymakers, international organizations all have a role to play.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about the framework around it.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. It's not just up to the experts and politicians.
Oh no, here we go again. It's on us.
We all have a responsibility here.
Okay, I get it. But what can we actually do? It feels like such a huge, complex issue.
It is huge, but that doesn't mean we're powerless.
So what's step one?
Educate yourself. Learn about AI, how it works, the potential benefits and risks.
Read articles, listen to podcasts,
Exactly. The more informed you are, the better choices you can make.
and advocate for policies that align with your values.
Right. You can also support organizations promoting responsible AI.
Like donating or volunteering.
Exactly. Or just spreading the word about their work. And, of course, vote.
For politicians who get it.
Exactly. Make sure your elected officials are prioritizing ethical AI development.
Okay, so education, advocacy, political action.
And don't underestimate the power of your everyday choices.
What do you mean?
Be mindful of how you interact with AI. Support companies developing AI responsibly.
Be a conscious consumer.
Exactly. Demand transparency about how your data is used. Every little bit helps.
So it's about sending a message with our actions.
Exactly. If enough people demand ethical AI, companies will have to listen.
Okay, so we've got a lot of work to do.
We do, but it's exciting work.
Because we're not just passengers on this AI train.
We're the conductors.
Love that analogy.
The future of AI is not set in stone. It's up to all of us to shape it.
And if we approach it responsibly, with collaboration and a focus on human values,
I believe we can create a future where AI truly benefits humanity.
that's a future I want to be a part of.
Me too. And I'd like to leave our listeners with one final thought. If you could design the future of AI, what would it look like?
What values would you prioritize?
How would you ensure that AI is used to create a more just, equitable, and sustainable world?
Those are some big questions.
Big questions for a big topic.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been quite a journey.
It has.
And remember, the future of AI is in our hands.
Let's make it a good one.